So I thought one of the works that what I should present for this symposium was one of the things that I worked the most, and then one of the things that I have essentially was the most challenging problem that I have dealt with in my industry career. Though it's not the most recent one, but it's essentially, like I said, the most challenging and then most rewarding, and I learned a lot. So I have added the other stakeholders' names in the presentation. They are the clinicians or the regulatory affair personnel that helped me with the process. So all of us, we were, or they are still an employee of the company. So I'm going to go through couple of steps, a couple of things together, and then to focus on the final piece. So I'll start with showing some dental imaging, and then I will talk about a little bit about the dental diseases that are available, and mostly focus on caries, and then talk about observer variability, and then the AI impact on how we can fix this problem, and then at the end, okay, now you have an AI, you have a problem, you have a solution to this problem. How do you get this to approved and then sell it, right? So in order to sell, you need to get an FDA clearance for it. So I'll talk about those, and then the metrics are going to be at the end. Just a heads up, this is a corporate research, so there are things that I'm not at liberty to discuss. So those I'm going to skip, but at least I have some results at the end. That is, the results that I'm going to share, they are public information that we have released as part of the FDA clearance. So in dental domain, there are different X-rays. Three 2D X-rays. One of them is panoramic X-ray, the one at the very top. You go to a clinic, you put your chin into a machine, it goes around you, and then it takes 2D X-ray out of your. And then the other is bite wing and periapical X-rays. Bite wings would be these ones, and then periapical ones would be these ones. Bite wings are taken on the posterior side. You bite on that sensor beam, sensor tool, and then they take two from here, two from here. That's why they call bite wing. And then the periapical ones are all the way from left to right, top and bottom, including the anterior one. So the bite wings are not for the anterior teeth. You cannot take anterior teeth X-ray with bite wing, so they are not there. So, and then this entire thing called FMX is short for full mouth series. When you go to a clinic, you are a new patient, they do the cleaning, and then they take your full mouth X-ray, generally 19 X-rays, and those are bite wing and periapicals only. And then they take RGB images as a secondary proof if they are going to file it to the insurance. And then there is CBCT. It's a 3D CT scan. I can only show the 2D outlay here, but essentially that's the 3D CBCT scan. So these different X-rays have different purposes, and they have these different purposes in different parts of the US. So bite wing MPA is more common in the US. Panoramic is more common in the EU area. However, in the US, you don't necessarily use panoramic X-rays for diagnosing caries. You use it for some other disease cases. And since this is an US company initially, we have started with bite wing MPA images. So this talk, the rest of the talk is going to be bite wing MPA and then disease on that. So this is a bite wing image again. These are some findings that we are overlapping on the image. You are seeing these measurements. They are essentially bone loss measurements. Anything that is more than 2 millimeters, they are alarming. It needs to be controlled. It needs to be stopped at least. These would be caries. This would be a caries. This is now within dentin. So we are outlining them with different colors depending on their severity. And I'm not sure if you guys are able to see, but there are bounding boxes. Those are for calculus findings. It just needs to be cleaned up. That blue one is for anatomical structure, which is, not anatomical structure, it's a restoration, filling. So now let's just narrow the scope to caries only. Caries, you might call it decay, cavity, they're all the same. We are going to focus on 4 types of caries. One is enamel caries, caries that is confined within enamel, that's not spread anywhere else. So this is still enamel. This is all the way up to here in enamel. So what is this? Why this is important? Enamel is, compared to dentin or pulp, much more strong, much more rigid, and decay will not grow fast. However, the moment that it reaches the dentin, it will grow very fast. It will grow into pulp. So then that means we need to characterize these as much as possible to give different signals to the end user, or whether that is the insurance clients or that is the clinic clients. So that is enamel versus dentin. It's depth-wise. And then the other one is relational-wise, primary versus secondary. Primary is, or let me describe what secondary is. Secondary happens next to a restoration. There is a filling, there is a crown, either it wasn't cemented well, or now there is a margin defect that bacteria is going to grow there, it's going to accumulate, grow, and then decay is going to start. So in that sense, decay could start from decay could happen anywhere, and it's just whether it is originating from restoration or not. If it's originating from restoration, it's secondary. If it's not originating from restoration, it is primary. Those are the 4 classifications that I'm going to be talking about. So the next thing is, the leftmost image is the raw image, and then we shown this image to 75 different US licensed dentists. And the one in the middle is the diagnosis that we got from all of them. So these are all, they might look like a segmentation, but in reality, they are all different bounding boxes that they have put in. They don't agree with the location of it. They don't agree with the lesion itself at the lesion level. If they agree on the lesion level, they don't agree with the width of it or height of it. In this case, since this is only bounding box, once we do the same thing with the segmentation level, we see that they don't agree on the borders as well. So there is a huge, huge difference between dentist to dentist, how they diagnose, subsequently how they treat, right? So if they don't agree on the diagnosis, then the treatment is going to be different. And the rightmost image is the actual ground truth, that is the caries. So the 2 here, one on this side, one on this side, one on this side, one on this side, and another one here. So you will see around this restoration, they think there is a decay, but in reality there is not. There is another restoration here, another one here. They think there is decay, there is not. So why is that? Dentists are, during their tenure in their dental school, 4 years, they learn how to operate. They learn how to diagnose to some extent, but they are not the gold standard. Gold standard of diagnosing disease on an X-ray is oral radiologist, and you will never see an oral radiologist in a clinic. They will be back in a research facility, and they are rare. But they are the gold standard. So then this is the challenge. These are not the perfect guys to do the diagnosis, but they are doing the diagnosis. Well, in their defense, they are the one that's seeing the actual patient. They are the one that's seeing the teeth on 3D domain, right? So I can only see 2D only of tooth on an X-ray. I don't see the all the aspects of it. And then and then in dentist's favor. So say there is a decay originating from here. This is tooth number 32. It's a wisdom tooth. It's originating from here. Until that decay reaches this point, you cannot see it on an X-ray because this part of that tooth is very thick. It's not visible. So they are going to be the only one that is seeing it. I'm not going to see it on X-ray. But if I see it and the dentist doesn't see it on an X-ray, then they are on their mistake. So that's one thing. The other thing is there is this thing called mock band effect. So if there are 2 bright objects next to each other or next to one bright object, they will see a radiolucency there. Disease, in this case, is radiolucency. Any area that is abnormally darker, it's disease. The classification of that disease is different, but that needs to be seen. However, if 2 teeth is adjacent to each other, and then these teeth is essentially like somewhat cylindrical, right? And when they are meeting with each other, the area by default is darker. They just need to be much, much more cognizant of what it is, what is there, play with the contrast, use high definition computer, the screen, to see it better and spend time on understanding it, and then look at this X-ray and then the other X-ray of the patient and then do a cross correlation or whatnot. So this means they need to spend time to get better accuracy. And yeah, the same mark band effect happens with the restorations. There is some radiolucency visible here, but that's not a disease, that's a mark band effect. That's why in the previous image around the restoration, they had those mistakes. So, well, I did not draw a good picture for you in terms of the state of the clinicians, right? So, but that is there. That means that's an opportunity. Oh, by the way, I need to mention the doctors that this annotation, they are not from a single school. They are not from a subpar school. They are from various schools, from including some Ivy League universities as well. So it's not related to alma mater. It's not related to the time that they have been practicing. We did not find any correlation with that. It is there with the least experienced ones, with the most experienced ones, or independent of the schools that they are graduating from. Next thing. So this is the part that I'm not gonna give too much information, but essentially, Overjet's clients are clinics and at the same time insurance companies. That means we are getting the data. We are doing the inference on the data that we are getting from them. At the same time, we are reusing those data and then annotate them and then train the model, improve the model, and keep iterating on that. So as time goes, we acquire more and more data, annotate more and more data, and then make the model more and more generalizable. And in the runtime, essentially, for clinic cases, the patient is on the chair. Before they essentially leave the chair, within a minute, the findings of all our AI models will be on the doctor's screen. They will be able to toggle on and then see the predictions and then toggle off. But they won't see the predictions before toggling. That's an important keyword I'm going to mention at the end. But that's what we are doing with the clinics. And with the insurance companies, we are essentially adjudicating their claim, automating the process. Generally, for a crown claim, they send this crown claim to an overseas team for an overseas clinician, and then they review the claim, they approve it or deny it. Sometimes it takes 2 months. So we are reducing this to under a couple of minutes, essentially, for insurance clients as well. So that's there. Okay. Now, I was talking about at the beginning that we need, what we can do with AI and what we cannot do with AI. We can essentially improve the accuracy of the patient, of the diagnosis, that's for sure, and we will show that. And then increase case acceptance, what is it? So you essentially, dentist uses this to convince the patient, okay, to show, okay, this is what I'm seeing you have as a problem with all the outlines, and this is also what AI is saying, the same thing, so it's confirming me, so take this. Or you don't, like they will drop the treatment plan, but it's at your will that you can decide or not, but they are using this AI tool to convince the patients, essentially. What we cannot do, we are not gonna replace a clinician. We are not doing a diagnose. So the term is here very important. In reality, we are doing a diagnosis, but we cannot mark it as a diagnosis because we are not replacing a doctor. It's not a CAD. I don't remember the old classifications, but essentially, we can only provide a second opinion to the doctor. Nothing more than that. We cannot do a treatment plan, but we can provide all the tools for the doctor to do a treatment plan, so on and so forth. So, sorry. So the next thing, FDA clearance. Which type of clients needs to receive, we need to get an FDA clearance for part of the clients. For insurance clients, they don't need an FDA clearance. It's not a requirement. For clinic clients, however, in order for the company to sell and then make money, it needs to be FDA cleared. Otherwise, it can remain under IRB terms. The number of clinics are limited, and you can only get money for R&D, not charge premium price. So FDA is a long process, and I'm going to try to explain some parts of it and then get to the metrics. So we got the idea of why we need an FDA clearance. So I couldn't tell you how we established the ground truth, or essentially, maybe before going into that, let me sort of like give a brain teaser. If 75% of the doctors don't agree with each other, how do we set up a golden set that is the ground truth? What is 100%, right? That's a problem. If the doctors don't agree, who is the golden truth, golden set? Who is the 100%? There is no 100% here. That's the problem. So if I say my AI model is 99% accurate, I have a huge bias in this case, because then I'm biasing to that single, or I don't know how many there could be, but biasing towards their opinion, because we know they don't agree with each other. So in this case, or in other cases, I guess, FDA has some rule set. That is, you show the same X-ray to 3 different clinicians or oral radiologists. They are putting their diagnosis on a labeling platform. Any lesion, they do 2 out of 3 agree. If 3 agree, is the same. If 2 out of 3 agree, that's a lesion, that's a consensus lesion. Any lesion that no one but except one dentist annotated is then shown to the 4th annotator, preferably an oral radiologist, and that 4th annotator's opinion is now rendered consensus on that. So it's essentially 4 vote, but the 4th vote is conditional. That way we are getting the golden set for an FDA ground truth. So now, all the metrics I'm going to show in the next slides is going to be based off of that. So in this set, we have in the 330 biting X-rays and 330 periapical X-rays for the FDA reader study. And there is an FDA standalone study that is 2,600 images. So, let me see. And when constructing this ground truthing schema, essentially, we have taken into consideration of the demographic distribution. So this device is 18 and above, age of 18 and above, the patients. Male, female, it has to be distributed. Age, still 18 and above is not enough. We still need to distribute the age. Sensors, FDA giving a clearance doesn't mean it is cleared for every single sensor in that domain. It is specific to the sensors listed in the FDA clearance. So in the US, 3 sensors for the dental domain, for biting and periapical, 3 sensors makes 80% of the market. 9 sensors make 95% of the market. So we wanted to get closer and closer to that. We put those 3 sensors in the FDA study, and then we put the remaining 6 in a standalone study so that we can get clearance for all 9 sensors. So that's essentially sensor level distribution as well. And one last thing is, at least 30% of these lesions, 30% of those X-rays should be positive, so that they need to see positive and negatives, and then essentially measure all false positives, false negatives, and everything. How do we run an FDA study? So this is FDA 510K CAD-E device. All device clearances have their differences, so this may not necessarily be the same thing for all the other applications that you will see, but for this application it is. It's a second read. Second read means when you have the finding, doctor still sees the X-ray as is without any overlay first. Then put the overlap, they toggle on, and then it's overlap. So it's now called second read. If it was concurrent read, so essentially without seeing the bare X-ray, they see the findings directly, then you are giving them the bias immediately. That's called concurrent read. It has its own requirements, and it's not easier. It's much more challenging to get that clearance. So the same images needed to be shown to the same sets of dentists in the same order, 1 month apart, phase 1 and phase 2. And the images, I just sequentially made them as unassisted, but it will be more or less shuffled. But half of the images are going to be assisted in one phase, and then it's going to be unassisted in the second phase, and then The ones that are unassisted in phase 1 will be assisted on phase 2. Assistance means AI findings will be displayed on their screen while they are doing the annotation. So what are we doing with this? So we are essentially showing the same X-ray to the dentist and say, in one case, there is no AI finding, put your findings in. In the other case, there is the AI findings, put your findings again. They don't remember it, it's been 1 month past. They don't remember what they have done, but they now know the AI findings, right? So essentially, now we are showing them, we are giving them the AI finding. Now we need to measure what is the bias. Like, are they improving? Are they better off with the AI or without the AI? Is there any reader fatigue? What is the effect of that reader fatigue, right? This is generally, in one of the studies, it's not listed here, but it's in one of the studies I have done, there was a reader fatigue. That is, we have shown this, the dentist sat down for 3 hours, they kept annotating. Their accuracy went down 7% from first hour to the last hour, right? But normally, none of them sits down in a clinic, they review hundreds of X-rays, right? They will do patient by patient, and in a patient, like I showed, they are doing 20 X-rays at most, right? So then in a clinic, they don't really have that reader fatigue, but in a reader study, they will. So essentially then I have designed the study such that they are not gonna sit more than 1.5 hours, then split phase 1 and phase 2 in multiple days, so that to eliminate that reader fatigue. Yeah, and so in this, the ordering is the same, like I said, but I have shuffled the sensors here. I have shuffled the positive and negative case, so all the cases are shuffled so that we eliminate any bias possible, right? If you have shown sensor 1 in the first hour and then sensor 3 in the last hour, then okay, maybe, yeah, they got worse metrics on the last hour because of reader fatigue, right? Maybe that is the case. So just remove that question. So remove that variable from the problem. Okay, so I talked too much on that. What is the objective? So we are claiming non-inferiority claim. So what is non-inferiority? The doctors are with AI not worse than them alone, right? If it's a superiority, it would be like doctors always will be better off with AI finding. We did not claim that, and we wouldn't be even if we did, we wouldn't get that claim. I'll explain why. So, and FDA is fixated on 2 metrics mostly. You can provide other metrics, precision recall F1. We did as a secondary endpoint, secondary metrics, but those are auxiliary. They only focus on AFRAC, weighted AFRAC, that kind of metrics, and then sensitivity and specificity. Sensitivity is same as recall, is true positives divided by true positives plus false negatives, and then specificity is true negatives divided by true negative plus false positive. So I have a challenge though. If I'm doing on an X-ray and I'm doing the true positive as a lesion level, what is the definition of true negative? It's ill-defined. At a lesion level, you cannot define a true negative because in an X-ray, you can have 1, none, or many lesions. On a tooth, you can have 1, none, or many lesions as well. So image level metrics, tooth level metrics, lesion level metrics, we have all provided all of those to FDA. However, we have provided them another metric that is there a chalk? Maybe down here. Sorry about that. So let's say this is a tooth. These are CJ points. So this is where enamel ends. This is one of the surface, mesial, occlusal, and this is a distal. So we have, this is not something that we came up with. This is already there in the dentistry. Mesial surface, generally always the surface that is closer to the surface of the tooth that is closer to the center of your mouth. Distal is the distant one. Occlusal is the top one. Essentially then, no matter where the lesion is, if it's here or here, doesn't matter. They are gonna drill from the top, right? So this surface is going to be done now involved. So they are going to drill this, they are going to fill it. Maybe the depth is going to change a little bit, but essentially surface is going to be gone. That surface is now involved and it's going to be restorated. So essentially that means we are being risk averse for patient. FDA is being risk averse for the patient, then the risk for them is if there is a false positive, then that surface is gone. So we need to provide the metrics for the surface level. With surface, true negative is limited, right? So it's not ill-defined now. Now you have 3 surfaces, total 2 teeth. In a mouth, at most, you will have 96 true negatives. So now we have solved the problem of the ill definition of true negative. With surface level metrics, again, we have already provided all the other metrics that are possible, that are not ill-defined to FDA in an auxiliary statistical analysis. And the other thing is, we need to prove at least with AI assistance more than 5% increase in sensitivity and less than 5% decrease in specificity. Why do we expect a decrease in specificity? So think about it this way. If the doctors are, why do we measure the decrease in sensitivity, specificity, and not expect increase in specificity? Sorry, that was the question. Think about it this way. You show the same X-ray to the same dentist. If they are consistent for it, assume that they are not, but let's assume they are. If there is no AI finding and they essentially dropped a lesion, then it's their own. But if they have introduced a new lesion because of AI and that is wrong, that's only false positive. So in this formula only can decrease because false positive will increase with AI showing the AI finding, then that's the only way this can increase, right? So that means decrease in specificity needs to be limited. So we are giving the favor more true positives with AI and much less false positives with the help of AI. So that's what we need to prove, right? So you are introducing more true positives, less false positives. Otherwise, well, ideally, if you have 0 false positive introduction, the specificity will remain the same. It cannot increase either. Okay, so the next part. These are the metrics. Metrics are a little bit crowded, I know. The rightmost column is the assisted metrics of the readers. The middle one is unassisted metrics of the readers. And then this column is for the standalone AI. So we have tested the AI model on 2,600 images with 9 sensors, and we have tested the readers for 660 images, 330 bite wing, 330 PA, and then measure their performance with or without the AI assistance. So without the AI assistance and with the AI assistance, when you compare, the difference is roughly 14% and 15%. So overall, PA, without AI, they were 65%. Now they are 79%. And then AI itself, without AI standalone, is 79%. And same for bite wings. AI alone is, I guess, 76.8. Unassisted readers are 64, and then assisted readers are 78%. So this is overall decay without any classification. The classified different levels of, different classification of decay cases. We have the metrics for them as well. They were not our primary endpoint. Our primary endpoint was overall decay. So that's what we are focusing on. And one thing that you can observe is, yes, they are improving. The dentists are improving with the help of AI, but they are improving and they are becoming as good as the AI at most. Because the metrics of assisted is very close to AI standalone, right? 79% here, 79.4 on the AI. The other one, 76.8, and then they are here 78.5, maybe 1% difference or 2. And then in the subclassifications, you will observe the same thing. So the better the AI gets, then the dentist will become better at what they are doing, essentially. That's the premise that we have shown here. On the specificity front, remember we were looking for assisted will drop, but that drop needs to be limited. So for the byte wings, they are going from 99 to 98.6, only 0.4% decrease. And on the typical one, it's from 98 to 97.6, again, 0.4% drop. And the AI standalone is much better than whether assisted or unassisted in both cases. And the final metric I have here is, now, these are essentially, like I mentioned, surface level metrics, right? They are not lesion level metrics, though, even though I don't have the lesion level metrics with me, the ones that are not ill-defined, they are very close to the surface level metrics. We are fine. So essentially, if they are correct on the surface, they are most probably correct on the lesion level accuracy as well. That's what you can get out of that. Assume at lesion, now we are talking about, for this one, lesion level true positives. If there is a true positive lesion, what is the segmentation accuracy? That's what we are talking about here on the slide. It's a dice score of those true positive lesions. Again, they are improving. The improvement is less embodied here or less bold because now they are already true positives, right? These are not, there is no false positives in here or false negatives. If I put them in, they will drop all the way down to 50% or less. But they are improving, and still they are improving, or they are getting as good as AI at most. So yeah, that's the last metrics, and then I have the conclusion portion. So roughly, with AI help, dentists can be as better or as good as AI, and they will get much more closer to the golden standard. And though we didn't talk much about the other classifications, but essentially we know in the dental domain, essentially dentin caries is easy, or primary caries is easy, secondary enamel that's challenging, or primary enamel that is challenging as well. Because think about it this way. Assume there is a lesion here that started from here and it went all the way down. It's going to be radiolucent all over the place. It's very hard to miss. This is going to be a dentin caries. It's going to be primary or secondary dentin, doesn't matter. The dentin caries is easy because of that. It's very big. The enamel caries, those are the challenging ones. Those are going to grow, and those are the ones that they will make mistakes as well. They are going to be somewhat visible, and sometimes they are going to be very tiny bit, but they are important because if it's not detected on time, within 6 months, until your next dental cleaning, it can grow and go into dentin, and then now you have the problem of, okay, it's going to grow even faster now, and you might need a root canal or whatnot. Yeah, so that's all I have. Any questions?
Questions?
Okay, so non-technical. So you gained much experience working in industry. Any advice you want to share with our current graduate students?
Sure. So, I would like to suggest anyone to get into the market sooner, much sooner than later. I would tell my friends that I wish I have graduated 2 years earlier, or be in the market 2 years earlier, because the opportunities have changed, or the bar has raised since then, right? Between 2018 and 2020 when I graduated, or even from then, it's getting raised much significantly. So do not wait, like get into the market much sooner. And then, let's see, I was expecting to do much more research in this company that I was working, but it's a startup. You don't have time to do research. At most, they will give you a week, which is nothing. So I tried that, and then there are other deliverables that are higher priority. So don't be offended. That's the market. That's what they are paying the money for, right? So you need to deliver. Without delivering, they don't necessarily care about the research, especially small companies. The big companies, they will have dedicated research team. They will not have the aspect that I mentioned that I had in a small company, in a startup, but then maybe you will have a research team. Your only deliverable is publishing and then building POCs, that's fine. But for me, I had to do POCs, production, regulatory, and everything. And then I had to do many things at the same time. So to me, it was okay if you are okay with it, but that will take your life for that couple of years. That's a good challenge, and I have learned a lot. Like I can easily say, while doing this study especially, I have learned more than I have done in my PhD. So in that respect, I feel like startups are good, but challenging.
Any other questions?
And have another.
You have another one? Okay, good.
So, knowing what you know today in the industry, so if you want to bring back time to grad school, would you do something different?
So I mean the same thing. 2 years earlier, that's given still. I would try to find ways that my thesis topic would be more in line with the industry. My thesis was on AI, correct. My thesis was on medical imaging, correct, and that's why I got this job in the first place. However, I did not use my thesis in my work because the application was very narrow. So you want to pick an application, the thesis needs to be sound and yes, it needs to be perfect. All the boxes you need to check, but at the same time, it needs to be generalizable to other domains. I was in medical imaging, but the application was on liver. We tried the other organs as well. It's just during the PhD time, we didn't get to the other organs. I did the multi-organ segmentation with Dr. Baru after the graduation as well. I worked with him another year. However, since I was working in the industry, I didn't get to it. So essentially then selling this as, this is widespread. The application is widespread. No, that's not easy to sell. So then that becomes a challenge when you apply for a job because then they will see you are overfitted. And that's one of the reasons 1 year ago I stopped when I switched the company. At that time I decided, no, I'm not going to do medical imaging, at least for the foreseeable future, because PhD 4 years overjet, 8 years I'm doing medical imaging, nothing else. It's not easy to convince the recruiters, it's not easy to convince the hiring managers that you are not overfitted to that domain. So in that respect, I did the detour in that case and then did the LLMs well. I was doing LLMs at overjet as well a little bit, but it was still in medical imaging domain. It was still in the medical domain. I did the LLMs within basketball domain, which has nothing to do with the medical imaging. So as an applied scientist, as an AI scientist, we need to provide that. We need to show you are not overfitted to a single subject. You are not overfitted to the single domain. You can do everything and anything. I know that's not possible, but you need to show you can adapt and you can learn, and you need to show this with your career, with your experience, and then all the stuff that you have done until that point.
Well, let's thank our speaker.